Even when we think we have nothing to give, we have something to give. Today is about God and economic inequality. God is so giving. So he's so equal. He's so equal. But we live in this world, and we live in this world of economic inequality, and it is real. Yes, it is. Economic inequality is real. We have to ask God to fill us up. I have a prepared message for you. I want you to make sure that you inbox me, JB at AfroEconomics.com. That you, those of you who are in the webinar with me, please make a chat. If you want to call me, call 1-833-ASK-AFRO. Let's make sure that we get full. We have been having AfroEconomics Equality Weekend, and I'm telling you, the room was full yesterday. We did an absolutely free college prep. Thank you to the members of AfroEconomics that make it possible. Thank God for y'all. We are on the move. Economic inequality ends with me. Yep. It's Sunday, it's sunrise, and it's time for the soul of your money. This is AfroEconomics Equality Weekend, and we're talking about economic inequality, God and economic inequality. Friday, we're having our AfroEconomics Equality Weekend, and it has been such a blessing. Friday, we did a members only luncheon, and y'all remind me to make sure that I don't hold it in Virginia next year. We do that luncheon in DC. Then we had our college prep. We had our, unless by popular demand, I have to do it at the corporate office again. Because I'm telling you, that college prep, or I have to do it both. You know what? That's the answer. Just do it both places. Do sprinkle some love in New York also. I will be in DC this coming weekend though. January 26th, Saturday, we're going to kick off the year in DC. Yes, let's do this. It was supposed to be a couple weekends ago, but this winter storm in the Northeast, kicking my butt. All my locations in the Northeast, it's like, that's what I get, right? So definitely, we're being DC, and make sure you check it out. We're talking about the principles of Afroeconomics, which makes today the soul of your money the fifth principle of Afroeconomics: integrity, Gianyame, including God in our financial decisions. Tomorrow, we're having the King Day celebration, ending our AfroEconomic Equality Weekend with a brunch honoring Martin Luther King and what we're doing to create economic equality. Afroeconomics is on the move. Good morning, Ms. Jones, Mr. Tice, all of our callers who are calling in, being industrious. You can't get that webinar right, you call in. That's right. Maurice, and definitely Ron and Val, good morning. I love all of you. I really appreciate you. Those of you who were streaming live on the AfroEconomics with JB Bryan page, I can't talk to you right now, but as soon as I log out, I will definitely go and check on you. So make your comments. I'm doing better, y'all. I've been working on my prayers, and I have a prayer for you, but I'm going to start with something that I thought that this was relevant for our when we're talking about God and economic inequality. That this particular verse stood out to me. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Think upon that. So here's my prayer to start this week out. Powerful. Dear God, we are talking about economic inequality this morning. This prayer is to remind us that your love is infinite. There is nothing and no one equal to you, God. You are the most powerful. In this time of economic insecurity and inequality, help us to know that all of our security is in you. Keep us mindful that you always have and always will provide for our needs. Apart from you, we can do nothing. Merciful God, we ask that you give our leaders the wisdom to guide our nation and the world out of the current shutdown. Help us to protect the poor and all of those who are struggling. Provide for their needs and give them hope. God, open new opportunities for them and furnish the resources they need to live with dignity. Encourage those of us who have enough to share essential resources for those who lack the necessities of life, and to do so with a humble heart, thankfulness, and being loving. Amen. So let's approach this economic inequality. Let's remember that a major principle of AfroEconomics is self-reliance. And God talks about that. And when I say self-reliance, I mean relying on the God in you, relying on your relationship with God to be that which you think is more important. I think that we live in a society that wants us to think that the worldly sources, are more powerful than our relationship with God. But I think that our true peace, our true wealth, and our true determination has to come between a self-reliance with God included in that. So in Matthew, and I see self-reliance in the word in Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 through 30, the parable of the talents. You probably know about it. It says in Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 through 30, I'm going to share with you, for it will be like a man going on a journey who calls his servants and entrusts to them his property. To one, he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. So he gave the talents to each of the people according to the ability that they had. And then he went away. In verse 16, he who has received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them and had made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you believed to me, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. Good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also went to the person who had 2 talents came forward saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also had received the 1 talent came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Now this is deep because I want to say to the person, not to break up my reading in scripture, and I shouldn't, but I want to say, let's look at this. He said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow. So he said, I know you're greedy. and gathering where you scattered no seed. He's saying, you know, I'm afraid of you because you've just been blessed and I don't think that you deserve it. So I got afraid and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. He came back. He's like, I'm terrified. I was going to lose it. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested your money with the bankers, and at my coming, I should have received what was my own with interest. You take the talent from him. Take the talent from him and give it to him that has the 10 talents. For to everyone who will more be given, and he will have an abundance. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. So in that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Whoa. I believe clearly that word allows us to know that we have no right to waste any resource. None. None. You know, so and we have no right to not lack faith in our master, our God, not our worldly master, our God. But we are afraid. You know, so really, the person who was given one talent was focused on the worldly master. That's why he said, you know, you have no faith. You have little faith. You should not throw resources at a person who has no faith. And we have to remember that because we have this need, you know, to help everyone. But if you're helping a crackhead, just for example, then you're helping a crackhead stay a crackhead. But if you're helping a crackhead by taking them to a rehab center, then you're giving them power. Now, granted, you know that you may pay for that rehab center, get them the help that they need, and you will realize then that they are the person with no faith, and as in you will find that God wastes his resources on us as well, but he still gave the resource out to allow them to be faithful. But economic inequality, the solution, you know, is big but yet small, in my opinion. It is big but yet small. Let's look farther. In 2018, Credit Suisse Bank Global Wealth Report shows. Now, we just talked on Wednesday about the economic divide and how Black people don't have as much wealth, and that on Wednesday. So we know this. We know we don't make that money. We know that we don't have equal pay. We know that the resources were not given to us properly after the Reconstruction. Those of us who are descendants of slaves, you know, that we know about that which has happened. We know about that. I'm not going to allow that which was done incorrectly to me. That in my part, when they were giving me my talents to my ancestors and they didn't give it to me, I'm not going to allow that to have the power to me. They have to carry the load of knowing that they owe us that money. They, meaning the government that still has those resources that were supposed to be distributed and they weren't. It's highly unlikely that they will, because we have allowed it to become, in my opinion, the government instead of individuals. So in 2018, Credit Suisse Bank Global Wealth Report shows that the total wealth and wealth per adult in the United States, I'm just putting us into the whole thing, because I always break us out, but I'm just looking at the whole thing, because God looks at us all together. We live in the United States, has grown every year. The wealth per adult in the United States, as little as our wealth is, that it has grown every year since 2008, even when the total global wealth suffered a reversal in 2014 and 2015. So where we live, most of us that are watching, that the majority of the world has suffered more on 2015 and 2014 and 2015, but we didn't really think about that than what we did. So in Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, he asked them to donate money to poor Christians in Jerusalem. And I think, you know what, I'm going to show you just a smidgen of this. So while we're talking about, I was going to show you a video. But the bottom line is, I want us to make sure that we realize that when we say economic inequality, when we live in the United States of America, as Black people, we are doing better than most Black people on the planet. And what responsibility do we have to that? You know, when we think about only our economic inequality between us and the white male, the 1%ers who are making more money than, you know, everybody on the planet. You know, so, but what responsibility do I have as a Black person that's doing better than most Black people in the world? Because all of you who are watching me have access to internet, you have a job, you're probably chilling at home, you have a nice home, you got a nice car, you have all this stuff. What is my responsibility? Now, that's my point in economic equality. That's why I created AfroEconomics, because it's about my responsibility. No matter how many white males, unfortunately, get on and say very ugly things about AfroEconomics because it disturbs, unfortunately, some disturbed people. They don't understand. I'm not asking them for anything. AfroEconomics is not about asking them for anything, because I know that it is us as consumers that create the businesses that create the U.S. economy. The businesses that we consumers, we're buyers. AfroEconomics is about moving us away from that and making us start building up wealth and making us more motivated about starting our own businesses. But they don't understand. I'm not asking, you know, they think that AfroEconomics is some sort of, you know, divide, and so that we can, you know, ask them for something and pull on, you know, someone. No, you got your own issues. Everybody has their own issues. This is the AfroEconomics. God is using this to empower us to be self-reliant and to be reliant on Him and to clear our minds and focus within. It's a huge, AfroEconomics is a huge meditation for Black folk to focus on these 10 principles that are about our development, closing out the noise and any expectation from anyone else. Because I know, you have to know, I know that you follow the principles of AfroEconomics, including your relationship with God, that and it is in there, that 5th principle. You can't follow AfroEconomics without following God. So economic equality, according to research done by this man, Richard Wilkerson, he says that economic inequality weakens society. The top 1% of society's income and assets are growing, and the bottom is getting less support and less programs, and less resources are going to the poor. But Mr. Wilkerson says, you know, economic equality weakens society. So I think that when my answer to that is that when we look at society as society and not as individuals, that's what weakens society. These individuals that are in a position to help have a godly responsibility to build up the world that they live in. That's what I mean, but they don't see that. So as long as we just say, oh, the 1%ers, or we give them these titles, or and wrap it in these pretty things that makes it less personal, I realize I have personal responsibility. Bryan, up front and center. I have personal responsibility. If they don't feel that they have personal responsibility, then that's on them. They don't have to answer to any government and they don't owe me anything. All they have to answer to is God. That's my opinion. And if they don't have God in them, then that's going to be their misery, no matter how much money they have. So let's look at that. You can see that societies that have huge economic inequalities or huge economic gaps, like in America and like in the world has that crime is higher. Societies with large gaps are more likely to believe in the death penalty. They want to just be able to just get rid of this source. Now, and this death penalty and crime, all of that is controlled by the government. And I'm not just talking about ours, I'm talking about globally. But when we use that word government, instead of saying names like, Obama, Pelosi, Trump, instead of giving it, but I've seen that we have given Trump an individual name, but when we don't want to address individuals, we put it under a group. We put it under a group instead of holding individuals responsible. So, and then also economic inequality creates a fear of social judgment, where the rich get afraid of being judged. Like I've never seen a politician who, wasn't poor growing up. All of them were poor growing up, and relative to what? Relative to what? They'll talk about, how bad their car was, or, they had to ride the school bus. Oh my God, you had to get on the school bus, and I had to wrap my boots with, bread. You had bread. You had a school bus. You had a car. Oh my goodness. So, but we're living in a society that, that they say, well, let's just appease the poor to say that I'm like them, but I individually am not going to help them because I'm like them. I'm one of you. So if I'm one of you, then I don't have to help you. When that's a lie. You made $10 million off a book or whatever they did. So stress is a killer. And when you have a society of huge economic divide, it's more stressful. It's more stressful for the people on the top, and it's more stressful for the people on the bottom. Because the people on the top are fighting always, and they're more this is according to research. That you're going to have more mental illness on the top and the bottom in societies that have huge economic divides. And that means that even if you don't have a lot, you got to stay mentally healthy. That's even in that parable of the talents. That person, and when he was afraid, he was totally terrified of the master. That was a mental illness. And we're not really, seeing it that way because we're looking at it as a biblical parable. But if you look at deeper, right? And then there's this argument that if the rich get richer, then it will trickle down. There is some truth to that because, the rich will get richer because if you put them in a position to have more tax cuts, they're going to want to build more wealth. And then, so yes, they're going to need more people on the bottom structure to help them build more wealth. So if they get the tax cut, they hire more people to give out more bonuses to average people, and then the average person, again, doesn't think that they think because they're in America that they're only average and they can't help anybody because they only made 100,000 and the other people made 100 million. So the 100,000, when we got a world made up of 100,000 heirs, they feel like they don't have to do anything because all I made was 100,000. All I have saved is 100,000. But how about if I say that everybody that's 100,000 heir, that you also have a responsibility for economic equality. When's the last time you, 90% of the society, helped anybody? And did anybody really make it on their own? No, because the rich get richer, like the head of Amazon. He's rich because of average people like us who have money to buy things because of consumerism. We buy things. So they can't exist really without us doing okay so that we can buy more things from them. So this researcher, Joseph Stiglitz, the wealth is growing by taking, he says that wealth is growing by taking more of the pie instead of making the pie bigger. I was watching this video about economic inequality, and it was trying to explain, so it had a black man and a white man, and they had a pizza. It was a cartoon character, and I was going to show it to y'all, but I was like, this is a trip. So the black man kept asking for more of the pie, and then the white cartoon character said, but if I make this pie, if I make this pie bigger, then I got to buy a bigger oven. So I'm going to have to give you a smaller piece of the pie because I need to buy an oven. And then he says, and the black guy said, no, I still want the pie. He said, but I put pepperoni on it, so you're still getting as much of the pie, but it just doesn't look like it because I put some pepperoni on it, which could be equated to like benefits or Social Security or something like that. But I could not believe that they had a cartoon in the United States of America that we don't, and then we don't look at it as racism because it's a cartoon. It was straight racist, suggesting that black people, are going to blow you up, because at the end, through the cartoon, he ends up blowing up, and his oven blows up because we're demanding. The black guy was demanding more and more of the pizza, and he kept having to make the pizza bigger, bigger, and bigger. And then this man is arguing that wealth is growing, like the guy in the cartoon was trying to say, that I don't. If I make this pizza bigger, it's at risk to me because I'm going to have to buy a new oven. And if I don't, it's going to blow up my existing oven. So what I need is more of this existing pizza back from you. And that's something interesting. So Obama said a poor person should have an equal chance to make it to the top. But is that really possible? Yes, indeed, a poor person should have an equal opportunity to make it to the top, but is it really possible? Since research shows us that a child's success is dependent on the wealth of the child's parent. So the rich are getting richer because their kids get wiser and their kids know what to do with the resources that they're born with. But we have to remember that we have access to a whole lot of resources. So we have to maximize the resources that are available to us in this country that are extremely more resources than the majority of the planet. So even though our wealth gap in America is big, if we look at our wealth versus the wealth of the average Black person on the planet, we have a responsibility. So things to think about: minimum wage increases in many situations don't apply to many of the jobs that are dominated by Black people. Bankruptcy laws don't include you being able to pay off tax debts, school loan debts. Unfortunately, especially the school loan debts, are a problem because after college, many Black people with degrees can't find work. So if a child from a rich family, wealthy family can't find work, then they just get an internship or something that will pay, just pay them with the experience. Where if your family can't afford that and you have these school loans that, are hanging over you, and say you just have, your parents were slightly making money, so you had to get these private loans versus a government loan, or, you're in a situation where they will not put off the school loan until you get a job, you're going to ruin your credit. So everything's going to cost more for you going forward for years, even your car insurance. It affects everything. Can stop you from getting the job that you need because they do a credit check. So, these are the things that we really need to think about as far as getting the talent, getting the blessing, making sure that you do the right everything with it. Think about where you are relative to the whole world instead of thinking about where you are relative to just people next door, just people right here that we see on the news. So I see statements, but very little research to prove that economic inequality really is bad for everyone. Even though he says it, like economic equality, can, it can be challenging, I guess, for really rich people, but it's clearly evident that if my demise will not hurt anybody on the top wealth shelf. If something happened to me and AfroEconomics was gone, it would only help them because some business made up of people that don't look like me would benefit from it. So to say that economic inequality, is bad for everyone, that's not true. Our businesses don't get the capital. I've never been, had any business loan, that can help me build my business or anything. But because of that, that could be why I'm still in business. Because when I did go into debt, I realized that will slow you down. So what we have to realize is be very careful with how we use our resources. So let's also look at this. The rich and powerful institutions creating an entity, remember, because we're not looking at individuals, and we should be. Protect themselves from the poor. Institutions protect themselves from the poor. The people that make up these institutions protect themselves from the poor. These people that we vote in to office protect themselves from the poor, disadvantaged, who are more likely, unfortunately, to not have legal protection for any crime or any innocence that they have. They protect themselves by building more prisons. They don't build opportunities or technical schools, so that people can have more job opportunities and teach the skills that they need. No, instead, they give the tax benefits to the corporations, and they get mad if we say that, no, keep these jobs over here so that we can, and then if you keep the job here, they don't force these corporations to give the proper training so that we can get the jobs right in our inner cities. We vote people and create government and create these institutions that take the resources and do more law enforcement. And they build bigger militaries for global controlling of the poor, even in other countries. And then we loan to other countries, and then they're paying back interest and debts. So we're pulling from people who are already broke and countries that are already broke. The rich, the government, corporate America, we call it an entity, But if we looked at that as a person, because God speaks to people, and people control these entities that are not doing what they should be doing to create a better world, to dissolve economic equality will end when I stop allowing individuals to hide behind the entities that they create. No matter what the name is, no matter what the political party is, we need to start looking at the individuals. So my thesis statement for today's The Soul of Your Money, or in celebration of AfroEconomic Equality Week, before I give you that, Mr. Tice said, the rich are hoarding the wealth for their legacies. In reality, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. So they're supposed to build, wealth is hard to keep from generation to generation. That's what they're supposed to do. But God just asks that we look deeper. God just asks that we look deeper. That's what I'm asking you to do. to build for the next generation. My thesis statement: economic inequality will end when I take personal responsibility, not expecting another to help. I must help. I must help. I must help. I've had many family members and they go, like, why are you going to do that? Why are you going to, do that? Like our college prep that we had, we put resources into that. We spent money. That's never happened before because people haven't directed their resources that way. I gave out free books. To every family that came out, I gave out $20 book. This $20. I fed every parent and every child lunch because that's what it's about. That's what we're supposed to do. How can the Black businesses feel that you don't have any responsibility, that God's not talking to you? So I'm not a billionaire. But why should only the billionaire do what God asked us to do? I must have a commitment to being a person of integrity. In Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, he asked them to donate money to poor Christians in Jerusalem. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 8 through 9. I am not commanding you, but I want to test the sincerity of your love by comparing it with the earnestness of others. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 13 through 15, our desire is not that others might be relieved while you are hard pressed, but that there might be equality. At the present time, your plenty will supply what they need, so that in turn, their plenty will supply what you need. The goal is equality. This is in the word. As it is written, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. The goal is equality. And it's not just for someone outside of me. Economic equality starts with me. As little as I am, as little as I have a responsibility to God to help, to give back, to not for the tax benefit, not because of the tax write-off. There's a whole bunch of things that are tax write-off. You don't have to help anybody for a tax write-off. When somebody said that to me, I said, oh, college prep day, you get to write it off. Go on and, buy that pizza for them kids. Okay, but I also could buy a new car. I also could, do something, else for the business. It's still, business has a lot of things that can write off. If a person decides to give something, why we always have to look at what's in it for them? Because what's in it for them, you can't even see. You cannot see the soul. God bless you all. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Let it run over. Let it run over. God bless you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And let's make sure, if you're available, come to the King Day Brunch in Virginia. Check it out on the calendar. You're not a member, make sure you are. Register. It's absolutely free. There is an absolutely free membership offer. God bless you. I'm here for you.